Whew. We are going to town today. We're going to do a full-on deep dive into the topic, is the manifestation community a cult? My intention is that by the end of this, you will have a really clear picture and you will have been able to form your own opinion, not just mine, as to whether it's a cult, yes or no. Hello, my loves. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. My name is Lorena. I'm a somatic self-concept and identity coach, and I support you in bridging the gap between who you currently are or perceive yourself as and who you desire to be or become. This topic has actually been a really long time coming, and this is going to be a full-on deep dive. I'm not quite sure yet whether I'm going to be posting it as several videos as a series or whether it's going to be a long video. Maybe I'll do both. And I've got a lot of opinions on the manifestation community, and I've made multiple videos that address topics like groupthink, cult-like thinking, spiritual narcissism, spiritual bypassing, why I have stopped making manifestation content and why I've decided to dedicate my work fully to self-concept transformation, why I've essentially left the manifestation community as such. So this is not a completely new topic to my channel, but if I'm completely honest with you, I've held back. So today, we are once and for all going to answer the question, is the manifestation community a cult? What I can already tell you is that it's not going to be a black and white answer. What I can also tell you is that I am not going to sugarcoat this. But I'm also not going to say that manifestation as a whole is BS, because I really don't believe that. I think there is beauty in a lot of spiritual teachings, and it only becomes problematic when it gets really distorted. We are really going to break down the characteristics of a cult, which I'm not just dictating or getting from nowhere. I've actually looked into scientific studies in the areas of psychology, psychiatry, behavioral sciences, and we are going to look at each of these characteristics and see how it applies to the manifestation community so that we can have a really holistic view of whether it is a cult and in what ways it might be a cult, and how you can make sure that you stay discerning and how you can be careful that you're not falling into a trap here. At the end of this, you'll have an answer for yourself, not one that I'll dictate, but that you will get to discern how you feel and what you believe to be true, and how this can benefit you the most on your journey, so that you can feel really empowered in creating your life, designing your life, and feeling good about where you're at, who you are, what your life is like, what your self-perception is. Now, this topic, and the reason for me to do a whole deep dive on it and go so in depth, is that over the years of coaching in the area of self-concept transformation, I have had so many conversations with clients or also people in this community and who are following me on social media or here on YouTube, who have had very negative experiences in the community for various reasons. There are people who come to me with a lot of anxiety and frustration, and who say they are feeling worse now than when they initially discovered spiritual teachings, spirituality, manifestation, that it actually traumatized them, that it made them more contracted, more anxious, that they are feeling burnt out, that their mental health has deteriorated. I've also had people tell me that they've had coaches who yelled at them for doing it wrong, or who chastised them, or who just made them feel less than, who made them feel like they're just doing something wrong. So I'm going to make this as detailed as possible to really take apart where exactly the manifestation community has cult-like tendencies, or even is a full-blown cult. And what I will use to determine this is experiences from people who have spoken to me about this, patterns that I notice online, my own personal experience of being in this community, because I was part of this community before I created my business and before I became a coach and before I became trained. And I'm also going to draw from experiences from clients, obviously anonymously, who before coming to work with me had prioritized manifestation over self-concept work, which a lot of people do. Initially, we want things, right? And then we prioritize the things that we can get over who we can become. And we usually only discover the importance of becoming who we want to be and feeling good about ourselves in that process. Those experiences from my clients that I'll draw from are usually people who have been on their journey for a while before they came to me. And so because of that, that includes people who have had coaching from other people, some who have had good experiences from other coaches or with other coaches, and some who have had very negative experiences with other coaches and who have been burnt. And also people who have never had coaching before they came to me at all and who have just been on a very long self-development journey. So it will be very varied sources that I'm drawing from here. I also want to make clear before I go into this that when I speak about toxic tendencies and cult-like tendencies, I am not referring to anybody in specific. I am not trying to get anybody down. This is a generic overview of patterns that I'm noticing and hearing from and that I have experienced myself. Things are never black and white. It's never all or nothing. There is nuance to everything on this planet. And so even if there are certain parts that I describe as toxic or cult-like, that does not mean that this applies to the entire community. It does not mean that you should bring every coach down or every person who shares something online down. It does not mean that the whole community, that the whole teaching is wrong. I am just pointing out tendencies and patterns and things to pay attention to so that you can protect yourself, essentially, and that you can get back to trusting your own intuition. I also want to make really clear that I am not pedestaling myself here. This video or video series is not me saying that I'm the best coach and that I have all the answers or something like this. I don't. I do always have my clients and also you watching this, even if you're not my client, best interest at heart. I am fully trauma trained, and I can confidently say that when I look at these cult characteristics, that they don't apply to me or my business or this community, but I have other flaws because I'm human, and just like anybody else, I constantly need to keep my own ego in check as well. Because when you are a leader of any kind, which when you run an online business like this and when you coach people, you're automatically somewhat of an authority figure. There needs to be some leadership, which can sometimes create a hierarchy. That is not my intention, but it naturally sometimes develops. And so it's very important for people in this position, so for coaches and creators and leaders like me, to keep their ego in check. And that is something that I am constantly doing. And so I want to make that clear as well, that I can definitely make mistakes and I'm not perfect. So I'm not pedestaling myself with this video or claiming that I have all the answers. And I also want to reiterate that I am not the only one with integrity. There are other people, other coaches who also have a lot of integrity. And you just need to be really clear on who does and who doesn't so that you can make sure that when you hire a coach, you hire the right person for you. And you feel safe with them and you feel seen with them. And they're not using you just for their own interests. Now, more than ever, we need teachers, we need coaches with integrity. We need leaders who are trained, who are skilled, and who really care for and about their clients, who have a mission in this world and who are not just in it for some quick fame or for the money. So this all also means that if you are watching this and you are seeking support through coaching, through watching these videos, including support with your self-concept, which is what I specialize in, as well as manifestation content, which is what I used to do, but what is not a priority for me anymore, that you should practice discernment. And at the very end of this video or of this series, I'm going to give you some pointers on how to do that. And what all this also means is that if you are watching this and you are a coach or a leader, a content creator yourself, I want to remind you to check yourself. You have a lot of responsibility when you are leading people, guiding people, coaching people. This is not to be taken lightly, because even if your intention is good, your intention is not to create a cult. Of course, people can make their own decisions, right? Everybody's a sovereign human being here. But when you speak to people's desires, their deepest yearnings, there is a vulnerability in that. And there's often pain or trauma behind it. So it's important to check your own ego, to not take this lightly, and to also practice what you preach and not just dictate. Before we take apart each of the characteristics of a cult, let's define what a cult even is. So I'm going to read this out. I've got the definition right here from 2 different dictionaries. Number 1 from the Oxford Dictionary is that a cult is a system of religious veneration and devotion directed towards a particular figure or object, or a person or thing that is popular or fashionable among a particular group or section of society. And then the Cambridge Dictionary defines it as a religious group, often living together, whose beliefs are considered extreme or strange by many people. Now, you see, it's not all negative, but I'll get into all the characteristics of a cult later on. But what we need to remember is that the word cult has a shared origin with the word culture. Now, a culture is just about collective behavior, tradition, belief systems, customs, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, which brings up the question, can a cult be ethical? Because what would an ethical cult be? It would just be a community. And community isn't bad. In fact, I would argue that we all need community. I have been in communities, I have worked with leaders, with coaches that have improved my life significantly. But the value of a community is not going to be what we'll question with regards to the manifestation community today. We're going to focus on the element of the definition that is focused on high control and extremism. So we're going to focus on the destructive and harmful elements or parts of cults, not the community aspect itself. And I also want to mention that despite most definitions of cults, including the ones I've just mentioned from these 2 dictionaries, usually having some flavor around being religious or having religious undertones or a religious or faith-based nature, and arguably the New Age spiritual manifestation community falls under that umbrella because it's spiritual in nature, even though it's not necessarily religious. Not all cults are religious or spiritual in nature. Not all cults have a religious basis. Businesses can be a cult. Brands can be a cult. Political parties can be a cult. So I hope this gives you a really good overview. Before we dive any further into the characteristics of a cult, in the next video, please let me know what you anticipate. Do you think the manifestation community is a cult? What do you think the outcome of this is going to be? Let me know in the comments. And I'll see you in the next part of this series that you definitely don't want to miss because we are going hard. I'll see you next week.